Hello students, welcome to the assignment guide for our Essay 2 rhetorical analysis. So when I officially assign essays, this is how I do it, through a presentation that doesn't just give you the prompt, but also gives you a little more guidance on how you can get started. So last week I gave you basically a sneak peek of how to do, of what we're going to do in this essay, and you already narrowed in on a topic. So remember, the topic is going to be an essay from those I provided you. You're going to be analyzing that essay in the essay you write. So the essay is going to focus on evaluating the rhetorical situation of your chosen text. You're going to consider the art of questioning, and we talked about that in our chapter 20. Well, actually, it should be 22. It says 27 on here. I forgot to change that. I'll fix that. As well as the appeals, the rhetorical appeals, which we'll be learning about this week. So the objectives: to determine whether the author successfully communicates a point, argument, position, opinion. Some of your essays vary. Some are more like op-eds, and some are, more like your typical argument type of essay. So you'll be thinking about what strategies does the writer use to achieve his or her goal and purpose. So the requirements for this essay are 3 to 5 pages, similar to what we did last time. The citation of the primary source, you'll only have one citation, and basically it's going to be me handing it to you just because of the way I presented the essays to you. So it kind of has to be cited a certain way because of where I got the essays from. You don't know that information. I'll have to provide it to you. So that won't be too challenging. And then the essay deadlines are going to be inside the units. So how to get started on this? What do you do? Whenever you have an assignment, I think one of the things that as a student I remember would stress me out is I always thought I had to have all the answers when I started writing. And that's not exactly how writing works. So writing is a process, and that's one of the things this course is emphasizing, is that process. So don't freak out if you're like, I don't understand rhetorical analysis. What am I supposed to analyze? How do I do this? That's how I react to assignments. So maybe you do the same, or maybe you're a cooler character than I am. But don't worry. If you're writing to discover, you're writing to learn, you're writing to better understand. So even from your first draft to your final draft, you might completely change something. You're like, oh, I tried to write on pathos in my essay, and it just didn't really have that much. It just didn't really rely on it that much. And so I'm going to change my point to something else. So you might have different things. So keep that in mind. We write to learn. We don't write because we already have all the answers, okay? So one of the first things we do is read actively. You're going to have to get to know your essay before you read. Even though you might not know all the answers, you need to kind of know the essay. So annotate it. We're going to do that this week. Ask questions. Analyze the essay, and a little more deeply than what we've done so far. So I also kind of call this mapping your text. And we're going to look at, you're going to be analyzing overall a rhetorical situation. And how are you going to do that? You're going to focus in on specific things. Like you might analyze rhetorical devices like hyperbole or rhetorical questions. It just depends what your writer uses. It could be a variety of things. Rhetorical strategies and appeals. Maybe you want to focus on the tone of the writer. That's, something the writer is using as a strategy. Or maybe you're focusing more on the appeals and you want to focus on the pathos, logos, and ethos. So what you choose to analyze will be up to you as the writer. That's one of your choices that you have to make as a writer. And so mapping your text will help you kind of zero in on what to write about in your essay. So then you got to do some pre-writing. I always strongly recommend pre-writing. Get something down on paper. Look over the text maps that you make and what's standing out to you. Brainstorm and free write, and when you map out your text, that might even provide you an outline or a kind of an organization for your essay. So to get to know your reading, I'm going to help you with this. The assignments I have created are kind of designed to guide you through this. So that helps, right? It's not all, it is your work and you're doing the work, but the assignments are designed to kind of guide you through this process. So you will be analyzing your essay inside a Power Process assignment this week, and that's going to help you get to know your text. So, and that's going to guide you through that process in terms of what to look for. And you might not know. You might be like, okay, I kind of know what logos is, but you know what? I don't see any pathos in my essay. I don't know what to write. So use the extra supplemental resources that I provided you too that can help you this week. So you're going to get to know your reading. And then you're going to map your text. So mapping is basically, like I said, what you do as a form of pre-writing. You're going to try to figure out what the essay is going to analyze, like what are your body paragraphs going to be focusing on? Because your main idea, what you're writing about, is going to be, does the writer successfully communicate his or her opinion, point, argument, whatever? That's what your thesis is going to be. You're going to be focusing on that. And your body paragraphs are going to be proving that. You're going to be illustrating it. Here's how the writer does this well. Here's how the writer fails to do this. The writer uses, logos effectively. The writer missed an opportunity to use pathos. So it just depends on what your essay is going to, what essay you choose, what's inside that essay, what you discover in the essay. So what does a map look like? I'm going to use this little visual chart here. And you can map yours out like this if you want, or you can do it more like an outline, whatever you prefer. So the first thing we do is we start broad. We go, okay, hey, the rhetorical situation. That's, it always comes back to the rhetorical situation. Relationship between writer, text, and reader, right? That's the magic triangle, right? The relationship. And so when we analyze it, we start by asking questions, or we start thinking about, what do we already know about this? What do we already know about the relationship between the writer, the reader, and the text? So get all that information down. And then you get more specific and you get to some of your mapping here, where you're looking at devices, strategies, or appeals to figure out, what is this writer doing and how is she doing it? Each text is unique, like I said, so it might depend on what essay you're looking at. So you might have rhetorical devices, like I said. Maybe your writer has a sarcastic tone, or uses irony, or uses a lot of figurative language, or uses rhetorical questions. Anything that's very specific, that's focused on the language, that's kind of where you're focused on rhetorical devices. Rhetorical appeals are going to be more of the impact on the audience and how the writer is appealing to that audience. That's where the logos, pathos, and ethos comes into play, and you'll learn about that in another presentation that I've provided you. And then, of course, other rhetorical strategies, like I said, you might focus on the tone, purpose, and audience, or some of those things from the chapter 22. Or you could focus a paragraph on several of those and illustrate how those strategies are working, right? So you've got a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of different things you can do. It just depends on what you discover in your text. So if you want to get started on pre-writing, this is just an example of how I like to do my pre-writing in a kind of a visual form. Free write, brainstorm, map ideas like I just showed you, or create an outline. Any of these will work. So what you're going to do is, just if you're somebody like me who wants to think about the structure of the essay while you're trying to figure out what to write about, this might work for you. You have an intro. What are you supposed to do in the intro? And I'll give you guys more info on this later. But okay, so I'm going to introduce the article and summarize it and give the reader, remind the reader what it's about. And then I'm going to present my thesis statement. Okay. So we always know the intro is going to have the thesis statement. So you already know that's going to be in there. What are my body paragraphs going to have? like I said, this is just an example. Yours might look completely different. This is not a recommendation for how you should do yours. This is just an example. So maybe you have 4 body paragraphs or 5 instead of 3. And so you might look at different things in each of those paragraphs. And so in this example, I've mapped out a little informal outline of what I would explore in each body paragraph. And some body paragraphs, sometimes when you write, you might spend 2 paragraphs on one topic. So don't forget that you're not limited to one really long paragraph. You might need 2 paragraphs. And then in your conclusion, remind readers of the thesis, but you don't want to state it exactly word for word the same way. And you might say something about the reading, or what the takeaway is from the reading in the conclusion. So that's what my pre-writing might look like. And so as you guys do the assignments this week, keep a few things in mind. Reread the assignment prompt. I usually have to reread an assignment prompt several times for it to kind of click. That's normal. You might need to look back at the chapter 22, flip through those questions again, or those elements that you could analyze for, rhetorical strategies. Reach out to me. Ask me if you need some clarification on something. I'll do my best to help get you on track. You might even you can do your own online research about rhetorical analysis. There is so much out there. And so many good resources. I try not to overkill on the resources because there is so much out there. But I have included a few websites that I think are easy to read through and have really good information, but it's, like I said, it's easy to read, it's concise. So you'll have resources that I provide you. And as I said at the beginning of the presentation, don't panic, because I know writing an essay and doing a type of essay you've never done before can induce panic. But it's just a process. You're not probably going to know exactly where you're going in a first draft, because you don't know where you're going until you've gotten there when you write. That's just kind of the normal process of writing. And no matter how organized you are, still there's always a possibility you could take a turn in a different direction, right? So you will have a first draft, and you'll have a chance to revise and submit a final draft. So keep that in mind. Writing is a process, and I think that'll help keep you anchored while you work on this. Okay, if you have any questions or need any help, just let me know.